Our next speaker is Ron Caiman, who is the CEO of Earthkind Energy Consulting. For more than 3 decades, Ron has empowered businesses, communities, governments, and non-for-profits to reduce electricity, heating, cooling, and transportation costs and carbon footprints with advanced clean energy technologies. Earthkind Energy Consulting represents commercial property owners in cost-saving and revenue-generating solar, battery, clean, HVAC, and electrical vehicle projects that maximize ROI with government and utility incentives. Ron, thank you for your ongoing support. We're so glad that you're a member of the Business Council of Westchester. And I'll remind folks that last summer, you really led a 7-series webinar that really helped, again, keep these issues in the front minds of businesses and property owners. So I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Great, John. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And as I've often told everyone that I meet, the Business Council of Westchester is the most active and influential and successful business organization that I've ever been a part of, and I've met hundreds of them over the years. So thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure, everybody. We're going to start with the presentation here. So while it's called a developer's dilemma, how not leaving green on the table, this really does apply to everyone, but in particular developers at this point in time in Westchester because of all the different activities going on. So first, I'd like to start with 4 different projects just to give people a sense of what we're talking about when we're saying don't leave green on the table. One, a new single-family home, 13,000 square feet, owner spending $8 million in Westchester. They were going for geothermal heating and cooling. They knew about the 26% federal tax credit. I got brought in late to the project, but they would have missed $150,000 worth of utility incentives that were on the table and that they didn't recognize at first. Second, a renovation and new mixed-use building in also all these in Westchester, retail and 36 market rate apartments. They were going with air source heat pumps. They were trying to do the right thing. They could have had, if they had positioned themselves right, $250,000 of utility incentives as part of the package to make this all work, but they missed some equipment specifications on efficiencies. I got brought in late on this one too, but still managed to get them $90,000, but they left a lot of money on the table. Third project, a retrofit of an existing single-family home, 18,000 square foot, huge home in Westchester as well. They were going for geothermal heating, cooling, and hot water. They are now receiving $191,000 of utility incentives plus a 26% federal tax credit on that project because they looked ahead, planned ahead, and put that into their pro forma. And then a new multifamily workforce housing development that is going to move to solar with air source heat pumps and electric vehicle chargers. They're increasing their net operating income by a total of $315,000. Their tenants are gaining a 10% reduction in their electricity costs. They're getting twice the quality of a PTAC because they wanted to have distributed heating and cooling in each apartment, twice the quality of heat packs with a new PTAC heat pump system at no additional cost because of the incentives. And they're going to wind up with EV chargers and a future make ready so that they can meet all this growing demand for electric vehicles. My name is Ron Caiman. I've got 30 years of clean energy experience. I was the president of the Solar Industries Association for a number of years, helped set in place some of the solar programs, got my clients a lot of different awards nationally from the EPA and others. I am a proud member of the Business Council of Westchester and did that clean energy series. And I'm also a part of business organizations across the country that are recognizing that it's not the economy or the environment. You have to have both, and they both go very well in hand. You can't have a sustainable, growing economy without dealing with the environment. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years, saved them a lot of money currently on all different levels, a lot of CO2, gotten them a lot of different incentives. You'll recognize some of the names on this list, everyone from government and municipal entities through various different types of nonprofits and colleges and universities and private nonprofits through a host of for-profit entities as well. So these technologies apply across the board. Everyone has a little different need, but everyone can benefit in various different ways and can put together packages that save them money at the same time that they reduce their carbon impacts. Had some great testimonials. Thank you, Marsha Gordon, for yours. Really appreciate it. Had one from a private nonprofit school up in Dutchess County, where they thought I was crazy when I told them that they could move to solar with zero cash out and become 100% solar powered. They're very happy now. And I'm also, one of my clients is the New York State Bridge Authority, which runs all the bridges from Bear Mountain up through the Rip Van Winkle Bridge up by Hudson. And, love working with all different types of folks. So one thing to keep in mind, people, as we're talking about the reduction in greenhouse gases, most of the greenhouse gases come from our energy consumption for electricity, from heating and cooling, and from transportation. But when you hear the reduction in greenhouse gases, what we all need to recognize is that it's actually totally and directly correlated with the money that we're spending. We spend over $61 billion a year on energy in New York State. Most of that money currently goes out of the state. By implementing these technologies in New York State, we're going to improve the economy, reduce the cost in the long term, and keep more money in the state for local jobs and local economic development. As Lenny so greatly put it, we have greenhouse gas reduction goals of 40% reduction by 2040 in New York State, 85% reduction by 2050. And the way we're going to get there is we're going to move to a clean powered electricity for all our energy needs, electricity, heating, cooling, and transportation, going from 27% today, 70% by 2030, with a goal of 100% by 2040. That's going to be accomplished with, first, incentives today. When we take a look at the grants that are out there, we're looking at grants in New York State of $1.5 billion for solar, $684 million for clean heating and cooling technologies, another $652 million for vehicle electrification and charging stations. And then there are tax credits and low interest financing and doing energy as a service where you don't lay out the cash, someone else puts it up, they own the asset, you just save money from day one. But soon, as is happening in New York City with New York City Local Law 97, we're going to be moving to penalties. So if you do not start moving with these technologies, you're going to get hit with carbon emission limits. And what that means in New York City is in 2024, we're looking at 50 cents per square foot per year. The same thing is going to happen throughout all of New York State with the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. We're going to move from the carrot today to the stick tomorrow. And if you don't believe how things are shifting, this was the incentive in Con Ed territory for solar in January of 2020. It was 60 cents a watt, where by May it moved down to 50 cents a watt. By November, 40 cents a watt. By August of last year, it was 30 cents a watt. We are now at 20 cents a watt in the last two tranches. As people apply and these tranches get filled, what that means is we move to the next level, reduction in incentives, and eventually no incentives for solar at all. I have a client who's been looking at this for a long time. They just couldn't move themselves off. They have 5 megawatts worth of opportunity. They finally now decided that they're going to move to solar and hop on the bandwagon, but by delaying, it cost them $2 million in cash incentives that they could have, should have, might have had. All right, so who's gone solar? We're looking at everyone from apartments and condos, temples, churches, clubs, medical offices, pretty much any building that has roof space can do it, and also carports in parking lots, great opportunity to expand and get some additional revenue out of your parking facilities. Lots of different ways of making solar happen, everything from owning and operating, through having a power purchase agreement or operating lease with no cash out, to leasing your roof and just basically having someone else own it and they pay you a monthly fee just to lease your roof to do the solar. And lots of folks are moving in this direction now throughout the county. Another piece that one of my clients did, Macy's, and this is what they do across the country, is they don't just do a roof replacement. They actually use the solar as a way of finance those replacements, either with third-party financing or by using the lucrative federal and state tax credits and accelerated depreciation. And by doing that, they either get a new roof now or they build an additional replacement into the deal in the long term. So something else to keep in mind with these technologies. Okay, heating and cooling, so heat pumps. So we all have heat pumps. It's a refrigerator, it's our air conditioners. Those are heat pumps. An air source heat pump is just a two-way air conditioner. It just reverses that process, and during the summer, it produces cool air. During the winter, it produces hot air. And a heat pump is a tremendous technology, come a long way. Air source heat pumps, seen some around. You might have seen one on this Murphy Brothers project in Mamaroneck or at St. Bartholomew's in White Plains, but you're seeing them more and more. And part of the reason is because of the incentives. And the other part of the reason is because it makes so much sense, especially when you can't get gas. But the best heat pump is geothermal, the heat beneath our feet. Ground source heat pumps, because the earth absorbs nearly half the energy that we get from the sun. When you take a look at geothermal technologies, they've evolved. Used to be everyone was doing horizontal fields, and that's still a great opportunity when you have land. But the other and major opportunity in Westchester in particular is drilling straight down and doing vertical boreholes. And by doing those vertical boreholes under any building, like these two up in Toronto, Canada, going under the footprint of any building in New York State, you can go down 500 feet. That 500 feet of wells under the footprint carries the heating, cooling, and hot water up to 30 stories. And it's with this vertical drilling technology and directional drilling now, you can do it at any type of house, large, small plots, large plots. Basically, you're able to do geothermal almost everywhere. It's tremendously cost effective on a retrofit basis for people who heat with oil or propane. On a new construction, it's really a no-brainer. And here's my favorite example is St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan, which did a geothermal heating and cooling project, drilling holes 2,000 feet under St. Patrick's in Manhattan. It was the least cost capital option for them on their HVAC system, and it reduced their energy consumption by 30% a year. But interesting enough, when you combine geothermal with solar, what you get is this affordable housing complex in the Rockaways is one example. And I know there are Westchester developers looking at this as well. Combine solar with geothermal, and you wind up with affordable housing that has air conditioning at dramatically cheaper prices, 10% of the cost that other people are paying all around for air conditioning, $10 a month versus $100. Heating costs less than natural gas. Or you can do, as this developer did in New Paltz, zero place where they provide heating, electricity, and hot water as an amenity built into the rent, because the solar and the combined systems with all the efficiency and the heat pumps means that that is now a very cost-effective option for them in this small 42 apartment building. All right. Third area, electric vehicles. So it took the world a long time to reach the first 1 million electric vehicles in 2016. We then saw this exponential growth where it just is happening. It's happening across the world. We're now at over 7 million electric vehicles throughout the planet. This year we passed it for sure. And it's not just Tesla. Tesla led the way, but NYSERDA has rebates for over 40 different electric vehicles. Pretty much any manufacturer that you like, your brand of car, now has an electric vehicle that you can get. And it's not just cars, but there are some very nice cars like this Mach-E, Ford Mach-E, the GMC Hummer. We've got the Ford E-Transit electric commercial van. You may have heard that Amazon ordered 100,000 electric delivery trucks for their fleet. So we're going to see Amazon electric vehicles delivering our packages all throughout the country. And some headlines that you might have seen recently about GM, about Ford, about Volvo, about how Kia and other manufacturers and other retailers are moving to electric vehicles. And then there's the state legislation, Massachusetts passing a legislation banning all electric cars by 2035. And if you didn't notice, New York has done the same thing. By 2035, most gas-powered vehicles will not be legal to be sold in New York State, brand new ones anyway. And part of this is that there is a lot of savings to be had. So in addition to the policy pieces of this, electric vehicles are cheaper to buy now between all the different incentives and the price reductions. They're dramatically cheaper to drive. We're looking at costs that are half to two-thirds less than gasoline in terms of the cost per mile. And they're cheaper to maintain because instead of 2,000 moving parts, we're looking at less than 20. New York City did an analysis of their electric fleet, and they found that the total cost of ownership for electric vehicles in their fleet is dramatically less than any other option. And the same has recently been proven true by an analysis by Consumer Reports, where instead of getting a discount coupon for 50% less for your maintenance for your vehicle, that's basically built in because you have so much less maintenance in an electric vehicle. All right, so in terms of charging, 98% of US trips are less than 50 miles. So when you take a look at it, most electric vehicles can go 100 to 240 miles on a charge now, and that's with an overnight charge that you can plug into a regular electric socket in your garage. And yes, there are a lot of multifamily buildings, and that's a different case, but many people throughout New York State, I think it's 2/3 of us, live in single-family residence. For those of us who live in single-family residence that have a garage, just plug this electric vehicle into your garage today. And Con Ed has an incentive program to help you charge at night when there's so much dramatically less electricity being used. It's an incentive program to help you charge when there's the most electricity available to get these vehicles charged. And I think that's a great example of some of the innovations that we're going to see and that we need to have happen to deal with the electrification of everything. All right, so lots of ways to make this happen. If you have capital or access to capital, you can take the tax credits. We're looking at returns on investment of 10 to 30% or better. Or there's other options in most instances where you can do a project with no cash down and get at least 10% savings and sometimes more. We always look at a 3-step process. The first piece is to analyze the situation. Second is to strategize what you want to do. Third is to energize and put in place all those technologies and implement everything. So we take a look at it, whether it's solar, heating and cooling, or electric vehicles, and you look at this 3-step process. There's a standard 1, 2, 3, analyze, strategize, energize. Each one has a different category of things to do, but they all need to be done. And by doing them properly and in the right sequence and accessing all the incentives, we can make some tremendous difference and have dramatic capital and energy savings, capital reductions, energy savings, and carbon reductions. So who's the best opportunity for this? Anybody doing new construction or renovation, tremendous opportunity. It really becomes almost a no-brainer. Anyone who also has high energy costs or aging systems that need to replace, whether it's electricity inside and their heating, cooling, and air conditioning systems. And then folks with fleets at this point, anybody that's got a fleet or has a parking lot in terms of the opportunity for electric vehicles and charging stations and new revenue models to come out of your parking lot with solar in the parking lots and electric vehicle charging. All right, so I like to usually start with why, but in addition to saving money, part of the reason why this is so important is because we have dumped so much greenhouse gases, so much into the atmosphere that we're literally changing and making the jet stream wavier. When that happens, we're now seeing these massive fluctuations. The federal government has documented billion-dollar disasters. In the 1980s, it was a billion-dollar disaster every 3 or 4 a year. It's been dramatically increasing. Like since 2015, we've been seeing over 1 a month in the United States. In 2020, we saw $22 billion disasters. This is a little older chart as of 2020, where the U.S. had lost almost $2 trillion. And since 2020, we passed that $2 trillion of losses from extreme weather events. 2021, we've now seen $19 billion weather disasters or better. And of course, here in Westchester in New York State, you saw the costliest natural disaster of 2021 that affected the whole Northeast. And that was one of the 5 costliest hurricanes in U.S. history, Hurricane Ida. How many 1 in 1,000 year downpour events have we seen in the United States since 2010? 18. What's the risk of a more Hurricane Sandy type intensity events? In the 1880s, it was 1 in every 500 years. By 2017, it wound up being 1 in every 25 years. And within the next few years, it's going to be the risk of 1 in every 5 years. So how fast can we change? Great question. This was New York City in 1900. All horse and buggies, 1 car. How long did it take until it was all cars and 1 horse and buggy? 13 years. So can we, with our human ingenuity, our power, our technology, our commitment, make this change that we absolutely need to happen for the future of our children and save us money and create a more viable and growing economy? Absolutely. Stop leaving, don't leave money green, don't leave green on the table. Go clean, save green. I'm Ron Caiman, Earthkind Energy Consulting. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Ron, thank you very much. That was a really good overview of the programs that are available, also the challenges that we still have. As you were talking, I also want to note that at the Business Council of Westchester, we are proud of the fact that so many of our members have taken a proactive role in getting their businesses ready, whether it's by going to solar. One example is Jefferson Valley Mall, who's done a really great job over the years to put in the solar panels. And we're going to need experts like you to help folks as they move forward. So here's a question that came up that is in terms of when a business should really engage in a clean energy consultant for residential commercial projects. Obviously, now we're on this tight time frame, but what is the process that you recommend for businesses to look at?
So it's always better to bring in an energy consultant at the beginning. On a number of those projects that I showed you, just if we would have sat down at the beginning and talked about the strategy, the vision of the architect, how it was being implemented by the engineers, what the owner's goals were, we would have been very clear and been able to make a couple of choices that just subtly would have dramatically increased the return on their investment, would have reduced their capital costs, would have accessed additional incentives. So the best time is always at the beginning. Have an energy consultant like Earthkind or someone else that's involved in that process, looking at what you're planning to do and helping you figure out the right choices so that you can get reduced capital, reduce your operating expenses with clean energy technologies, and access all these incentives.
Another question that came up are there any studies to show the lifespan of the batteries for the electrical vehicles and how they will be disposed of?
Yeah, so one of the neat things about electric vehicles is that you have to have so much power to be able to move people very quickly, right? At the end of the life, when you're looking at the transportation life of moving people very quickly, then what happens with those batteries is that they can actually still be used as a storage device. So part of the business models that are evolving now is to take those batteries and use them as battery storage and stationary capacities. That's one piece. And then the third piece is that as we're seeing, as we get more demand, the cost of the components are becoming higher. So therefore, there's going to be a need and a business model to recycle and reuse and use those batteries and those components and recycle and make them happen. So lots of great opportunities. Definitely, look, nothing's perfect. There's always a spectrum, a range of challenges with any technology, anything we're doing. But one thing we know is that we have to make this transition. And when we do it, we can save a pile of money.
Another question, can you give examples of what are the best choices to suggest to customers doing new construction?
Right. Yep, absolutely. So it makes total sense that when you're doing new construction, if you have any available sunlight, you can't do it in all the places in New York City, but in most places in Westchester and elsewhere, if you have sunlight, put solar onto your roof. Think about solar on your property elsewhere, over a parking lot, or as a canopy, or as on your ground. If you have a lot of land, but most times on the roof or in the parking lots, use that solar, integrate that then with, if you can, geothermal heat pumps, very cost effective, especially with the incentives out there. Now you have the solar electricity and battery storage that can supply the electricity to also do your heating and cooling. In terms of efficiencies, air source heat pumps are 200 to 300% efficient. So that's dramatically better than any fossil fuel, which is always less than 100% efficient. So air source is 200 to 300%, but ground source or geothermal, because it uses that energy from the earth, is 400 to 500% efficient. So you want to include solar with geothermal or air source heat pumps, and then in addition, build in electric vehicle charging stations, and now you're covered with a total energy package that dramatically reduces your energy costs.
Speaking of geothermal, and this is the last question that we'll throw at you, and you and I have had conversations going way back about, obviously, geothermal is one of the new renewable sources that Westchester County should take advantage of. even with the new technology, we're going to need communities to understand that there is going to be some quality of life disruption that has to happen. But we hope that, again, people will look at that. But can you give some explanations of how geothermal conversion could be leveraged at a county government level?
Sure. And I know the county has been a leader. The county executive and the legislature have tremendous leadership on these issues. But basically, look, especially when you're using oil today, and there are a number of county buildings and other buildings that use oil, it is an expensive commodity. It's very volatile. The costs are going up and dramatically, as you'll hear later, same with propane. By moving to geothermal, you can do retrofits cost effectively where, again, you're drilling vertical wells as opposed to trying to do horizontal. When you do horizontal, it's a cheaper way to do it. If you have a water source, a pond or a lake nearby, that's another cheap way to do it. But if you don't have that option, you can do like St. Patrick's did, just drill vertically straight down. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're sending a fluid down. It's a closed loop, so very little maintenance. Fluid goes down, brings back that 50 degrees temperature from the heat beneath our feet. And now you're starting with 50 degrees to either bump that up with the heat pump to 70 or wherever temperature you want to set and or cool your building. So geothermal is a tremendous opportunity, very cost-effective option.
Well, Ron, thank you very much. Now, people were paying attention with your presentation because I've gotten 4 or 5 people to say that you left the last digit of your phone number out.
I am so sorry. Somehow that got bumped on the last edit, I guess.
If you could give people your phone number, that would be great.
Yep, 917-453-5740. I just put it into the chat. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see the chat. So sorry, folks. I guess on some of my last edit, it must have knocked it out. I'm so sorry. So,
well, again, you should feel good that people were paying that close attention.
I do feel good about that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Ron, thank you very much. Thank you for your ongoing leadership and the support that you give to Westchester businesses. And we look forward at the Business Council of Westchester to continue to work with you. Have a happy and healthy and safe holiday.
Thank you all very much. Same to you, John and Marsha and everyone at the Business Council. You guys do great work. Please keep it up and happy holidays to everyone.